Hello, welcome to the Shelly Show. I'm Shailendra, and you're watching this simulcast live on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. For you to view this episode and other sessions that I run on emerging technologies live, I would request you to follow me so you are alerted when a live session is on. This gives you an opportunity to ask questions directly from our guests. So please press the follow button below there. So today, I thought it would be a great idea to celebrate the women in data science by bringing them to this platform and understanding their point of view on how data science is moving forward. So if you know a leading lady of data science and want everyone to hear their point of view by featuring on a roundtable here, please mention their name in the comment section. Okay, so let's start today. Today, I have three very special guests who've been working in the data science space, delivering value to the industry for the past few years. And I think everyone from a beginner to an experienced data scientist would learn from them and have a lot of questions. So here is your opportunity to ask them questions directly. Please write your questions in the comment section and we will take them. Let me not waste any time and quickly bring the guest to you. My first guest is Tanushree Guha from Accenture. Tanushree is a managing director with Accenture. She leads the workforce analytics practice in Accenture Applied Intelligence division, the data science and the artificial intelligence arm of Accenture. She has 15 plus years of industry experience. Stats and computers have been her passion since a very young age. She believes that analytics is an apt confluence of the two subjects. She enjoys solving problems and driving value for her clients using digital and AI. So, welcome to the show, Tanushree. Let me bring you in. Hi, Tanushree. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Thanks for invite. Yeah, I'm doing great. How about you?
Very good. Thank you for joining us. Now, give me a minute, and I'll bring other guests as well, so we quickly get started.
Sure.
My second guest is Ujjyaini Mitra, who is the head of data at Zee5. Ujjyaini is a double honors in mathematics and theoretical computer science from CMI and MS in quantitative economics from ISI Kolkata. She joined McKinsey, which introduced her to the world of analytics. And today, she knows very well about her education, how her education is boosting her growth. She worked across emerging industries like telecom, e-com, and now OTT. She enjoys, her joy of work comes from building things from scratch. Her belief: to live is to risk. Hi, Ujjyaini.
Hi, everyone. Hi. It's lovely to be here. Thanks for inviting.
Okay, how are you doing today?
Great. A lovely morning. Thank you so much.
Self-isolated.
Right.
Okay, let me bring our third guest, Neethu Vincent. She's part of the leadership team at TheMathCompany. Before joining the analytics industry, she worked as an editor with the International Youth newspaper and a consultant for a social services startup. A math major from St. Stephen, her love for math and problem solving eventually nudged her towards the analytics industry. She's a hands-on data scientist, having solved various analytics problem statements across industries and verticals. Hi, Neethu. Welcome to the Shelly Show.
Thank you for having me.
Good stuff. Okay, guys, I'm sure everyone is self-isolated at the moment and enjoying their home time. So I thought, let me take this opportunity to bring these three leading ladies of analytics, data science, and bring them to the world of social. So we're live, and to tell you the truth, we've got 36 people watching us at the moment live. So I would request all of the guys who've got any questions, please shoot your questions, but I will start my questions first. So the first area of our talk, I'm looking at the processes. So I've been doing analytics for now 26 years, and what I found out was initially in my early days when I was actually solving problems, it was mostly hit and trial. So what has moved on for the past few years? What do you think from a consulting point of view, Tanushree? Is there a standard process that has been created now, or are we still doing hit and trial methods?
Not really. So we have moved to being very agile in our process of working with our clients. Fail fast is the motto. So we move into a solution where we don't typically follow the traditional waterfall way of delivery, where you get to see the output probably in 3 to 4 months' time. But it's an iterative process. So things have changed from the process standpoint of how we approach a problem, how we solution it, how we deliver it. And it's always starting small and then scaling it up so that you really know where lies the roadblocks, how do you fail, and then what needs to be done pretty fast.
Brilliant. What's your point of view from a corporate standpoint, Ujjyaini? You playing with the OTT data these days. So
Right.
is it a standard process that you guys have devised, or is it you're still doing the hit and trial stuff?
So there are certain things which are, very natural, which already has grown a better way. Now, I will bring the process in a little different fashion. Most of the people think that data science or analytics job starts when the data is there, and then you create all the model and then you deliver the model. I think the sexiest part is there, but the two parts which always been underlooked or not been looked properly is what data first of all to capture. And when you go to the big, when there are millions and billions of events happening, what data to capture actually determines your success. And the second part, which is another overlooked and heavily now data science work on, that is once the model or whatever is the solution created, how do a business person goes and deploys that. Now these two parts, the start of it and the end of it, and then bringing the whole cycle into it, I think is the biggest process that we are developing, and that is what we have implemented, and we have found a humongous success.
Perfect. Neethu, from a product development point of view, so you guys create products as well. So how do you take the processes? Is that a standard set of process in the product? I'll tell you one thing. I met one of a very senior leader in one of the large online retail shop, and you would know them. I don't want to name the company or the individual, but when I started talking to them, I thought there was a very different point of view from a product development point of view from on data science and services point of view, which Tanushree, we are very used to from Accenture's point of view. What is your thought process, and how do you take it in your organization?
I think both services and product part of it is still important for multiple organizations. One thing that I've noticed is that data science as a vertical or a function has stopped becoming a good to have function, but with, like Ujjyaini mentioned, right, multiple levels of data, multiple types of data is currently being captured by different organizations. So data science or analytics has become a vertical or a function that is essential for a lot of organizations now. And with that kind of traction, I think a lot of processes are also coming into place, which is, in my opinion, a very good thing, because with more processes, a lot of the times you also get to do quick turnaround projects and quick turnaround value you can create for your organization, and if you're a service provider to the clients that you work with. So yeah, there's definitely been a major shift towards processes, set processes, I feel.
Okay. I'll totally agree with Ujjyaini, because Ujjyaini comes from a corporate standpoint. And when I was in a corporate, to be honest, 10 years ago, before joining Accenture, I used to think, let me get the data and let me try do something and I'll come up with an answer. But what I realized when I joined Accenture, if you don't have a question, what answer are you looking for? So it was very important for us to understand the business objective for a data scientist to understand and be part of it. The reason why, and I'll put that out there, the reason why I was successful, whatever little success I got while I was working for a corporate, was because I was part of the business and not part of the IT. And a lot of the people think that analytics or data science is an IT function because it involves coding. I think it is a business function and it should be sitting in business. So the business guys can actually, as you mentioned, Jenny, rightly, if it is not executed, what's the point, right? You can build very big model, absolutely accurate, but if the business is not going to utilize it and execute it, what's the point? So yeah, absolutely, I agree with all three of you. Tanu's given that structure around, and I think there was a structure that I created from we have from right from defining the business problem to collecting data to building a model to creating an output, which then becomes an outcome and the important aspect of it. Do you agree with me, guys?
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
Tanu,
Yes.
can I ask you a question? Anywhere you've seen when you've followed a standardized process where you've been more successful than doing a hit and trial? Anything that comes to mind? I'm
So,
putting you.
so if the business problem is not a novel one, or if it is something that is persistent across multiple organizations and multiple industries, then probably a standardized approach where you more or less commoditize a particular service works very well. You have done it before, and those are your accelerators when you take it to your next client or next problem to solve. And because you know what you're entering and you know what you're ending up with. However, if a problem is of a novel kind, right, you really do not have the off the shelf accelerator for it, or things that are readily available in the market, that's when you would run experiments, as we tend to do, say, in any kind of a problem solving exercise, right? You run experiments, you run small parallel streams of prototypes, and then the fail fast approach comes in handy, where within 2 weeks or 3 weeks that this would work and this would not work. So what we tend to do is we tend to take that approach very often when we really need to figure out the best approach to go forward, but we really don't know what to start off with, and then choose basis whatever is an outcome for the first MVP, for example.
Perfect. Okay, let's move on to the next section. And this is around the skill sets that you say. This is a big elephant in the room. And the reason why I say that is because I promise you, if any one of you can type data science, all the people who are watching too, data scientist in LinkedIn, you will find around about, well, in Australia only, I know, there are around about 250,000 data scientists. And I don't know where they appear from, because when I counted last, there were not only more than 5 or 6 people who could actually do data science. Well, that also brings me a question around what is data science in itself, because we need to define that as well. So I will start with you, Jenny. What are the important skills do you think you need for becoming a data scientist? And I have a point of view as well on that, but let's hear you.
Okay, so my personal sense, and given I have seen the end-to-end process of a data science, starting from collecting data till defining what data to collect till the deployment of it, I have seen that it is not just one kind of skill that's successful in the data science world. I think it's a very applied science where statistics, mathematics, computer science are very predominant academic background that a person need to come with. But it's not necessary that if a person doesn't know how to code, that person cannot actually become a data scientist. A very new kind of data science role that is coming up is actually a storyteller. People who know that given a data, given a model, or given the results, how that person can tell the story and communicate that to the business users and crack the actions out of it. These are the people who connect the bridge between business and the model. Then of course these are the people who are modular, where you come with all the data science, computer science backgrounds, and then there are also the statisticians who bring the number skill into it. So these two are very technical skills, but then around that there are lots of soft skill that is required. Even just let me tell you, the people who actually define what data to be collected, they need a huge amount of imagination skill. For example, what data should I collect and why should I collect? What are those imaginative use cases why I'm collecting that data? And keep on course correcting. So I think it's a multiple kind of role. Psychology has a huge role to play when we look at the market research or why kind of data. Today we are doing lots of neuroscience where once again, psychological data important. So multiple skills can play role, and I think everyone has a role to play in this industry.
Perfect. Neethu, what is your point of view when you're looking at a product development stage? What kind of skill set do you look for in people, and how do you go about it?
Yeah, I think Shailendra, when I think about data science as a field, right, there are three major things that come into my mind when I think about skill set. One is the ability to have a growth mindset, right? When I think about 4 5 years ago, the primary coding language that I saw all around was R, and now it's Python, and then it becomes PySpark tomorrow. So it's just constantly changing. So the ability to pick up skills, learn on the go, is going to be extremely important for a data scientist. And also we need to understand, different clients would come with different requirements, different business users would come with different requirements, and the product or the expectation of the final output could be very different, ranging from person to person. So this is a very, very important skill that I see, to be tool agnostic. The second thing is, like Ujjyaini mentioned, a knack for research. I think a good data science product is always rooted in very, very good understanding of the business user, and what is their perspective. What is the context in which this particular problem statement occurs, right? So yeah, a good knack for research is extremely important. You can't build a pricing product for a B2B business the same way that you would build it for a B2C business. So you have to understand the difference between the two types of business and the business users. And the third most important role I feel is business user empathy, which in most parts showcases itself as good storytelling. To be able to understand what it is that the end user wants, what is the problem what is the root problem that they're trying to solve with this particular product or solution, right? So that empathy will enable you to tell a very good story around the data, to make the business user understand or go through the journey that you have gone through while you're building a product or a solution. So yeah, I think these three are the skills that I feel is extremely important for a data scientist in today as well.
Tanu, what do you think? Because you would have a very different point of view coming from a consulting background, and how because you are hiring people right, left, center, right? Because
Yes.
the skill set is quite defined, and secondly, you need to understand, where you use them, because it's all about using the right people for the right job. How do you go about it?
So yeah, Shailendra, I mean, I have seen this field evolve significantly. So when I started my journey, to be a data scientist, back then we used to be called as business analyst, and the only thing that a person needs to know is probably a coding language, and get upskilled into SAS. Have a knack for data and statistical modeling, right? So those were the skills that were needed to get into the analytics industry. And I'm talking like 10, 12, 15 years back. But now it's a multitude of skills like the others here mentioned. So there are 5 different distinct roles, but with interchangeable skills that we typically look for, right? So the first one is around a solution architect, a person who kind of holds it end to end, right from the technology to be used, how will the solution integrate, what would be the client or the user facing like interface looking like, etc. So the solution architect is the one who we call as a designer. right? Then you have the second one, who is the data engineering kind of roles. Now data engineering is actually the guy who knows the pipelines, the plumbing of how one system connects to the other, how the data flows from one end of the solution to the other, etc. And then you have certain skills which are very, very core data engineering skills, very, very high demand, very high cost in certain key locations, which sits within the data engineering bucket. The third is the analytics model or the data science bucket, where you have machine learning and AI engineers. Then you have the data scientists sitting there, typical statistical, mathematical, quantitative background folks who really know how to build a model, who would know the best optimization techniques or the best forecasting or the predictive algorithm. So they sit in the middle. That's the data science bucket. The fourth bucket that we look for is around visualization. So everything is all, you may have the best of the algorithms, but if your visualization is not user friendly, or if it's something that doesn't appeal to the end user, it doesn't work, right? So the visualization, again, you have skills there which are a multitude of them. You have HTML as a visualization layer, or you may have things very basic around Tableau or Power BI, or there are multitude of such platforms which go in the visualization layer. But then you have the fifth skill also, which is around the storytelling or the insights generator. So this person is actually the interface between the business and this technical team. This person really knows how to read the numbers or the insights that comes out on the visualization to interpret it such that the end user is able to understand, right? So these are the 5 key roles that we typically look for when we staff a particular project for a client. Of course, these days we see a 6th dimension coming into play around psychologist or neuroscientist, because we see that understanding, the appealing to the heart of the problem, not just the mind of the user. We really need to figure out what are the elements that you need to build into the solution so that you are able to do that more effectively. So, but these are the typical skills that we tend to look for.
Good stuff. I think I would take one comment from Ujjyaini, which said, which I used to say in all my presentations, the first slide is, analytics is all about creativity. It's less about data and analytics. That's all there, but it is the creativity aspect of it. And you rightly said, Tanu, we need these kind of people. The way I structured it a long time ago was around people who were very good at IT function, which is collecting data, writing SQL, manipulating data as you go. There's the middle layer, which is the statisticians, the guys who could write models. And then there is a third layer who write the insights, who have a little bit of understanding of both the data and the models, and can actually communicate with the business to explain to them what actually it means and what it means to the business and how they can use it. So I think it was 3 pillars, but you've actually expanded it even further to 5 pillars, which is brilliant, because I think as we're growing, it is expanding and it is making it much more bigger as we go. Anything else you want to add which came to mind while each one of you were talking? Raise your hand and you can say.
So I mentioned something about skills being interchangeable, and that's one interesting insight that we derived while working with a client work, that this client wanted to set up a data science center, and they really wanted to understand what roles should they hire for. And while looking into the skills, we realized that the data engineering skills and the data science skills were slowly blurring in their distinctive buckets. So you really have interchangeable skills between these 2 pools. So both knows Python, but doesn't mean both use Python in the same way. So more and more you'll find this cross-pollination happening across the board.
Okay.
Yeah. And I feel that
so also one of the thing, so one of the thing that I have also noticed is 2 kind of processes that exist in terms of the skill set, distribution. So some processes where we do it a very compartmentalized way and bring people with specific skills. There is some people who I have seen actually very comfortable playing the role end to end, and these are the people who wants to take the ownership completely and actually start designing from the start, then doing it, delivering it, and ensure that it is getting actioned. So I think more and more I am seeing this both this kind of people come. Some people are very specialized skill and they say I want to go into that domain, versus some people actually want to come and explore the end to end kind of structure. So in current organization I actually have both kinds of people, and when a project comes, we need to actually design a squad which therefore delivers the value best. So I think we also have to see, and taking the note on this interchangeability, there are people who enjoy doing that, and I think that's also is emerging very heavily.
Neethu, you want to add something?
Absolutely. I think the term for it, I think a lot of people are asking, is a full stack data scientist. All skill sets put together. I think that is emerging as a major need in the industry these days.
Okay. One thing, I've got three amazing ladies here. One question for you. What do you advise budding data scientists? Well, first of all, before even I go there, I have to mention one thing. When I was hearing you three guys, I realized how old I am. Because when Neethu said, oh, when I started my career, we were doing R. Well, actually, when I started my career, we were doing SAS. R wasn't even heard of. And now I understand how old I am because we all started a career with SAS. Well, to be honest, Tanu and Ujjyaini, I must tell you, when I started my career, I set up SAS's business in India in 1996. And I was the first employee here in India. It was like, so she's talking R as one of the first software that she used to use. Imagine where were we? Where was I living at the time? Anyways, so a quick question to you guys. What do you advise the budding data scientists to focus on to be successful in data science? What should they focus on? Anything in particular you would suggest? Anyone who wants to go? Tanu, you want to go?
Yeah, so I think Ujjyaini touched upon it, and so did Neethu. I mean, anybody who comes on board in this field should be open to learning new stuff and learning fast, right? So things are changing, things are evolving. I mean, I know we switched from SAS to R sometime in 2013, 14-ish, and then since then we are now moved to Python, and then Python is evolving. So, this has been my advice to the people who work with me and my friends and colleagues in this field, that one just cannot stop learning, and you should be open to learning about new skills, and new skills are emerging every 6 months. So one has to be open to that.
Okay. Jenny, you want to add on that?
Yeah, so I think on top of what Tanu was talking, and that is clearly matches with this new VUCA world. Everything today, probably another 3 months changing. But I also see another undercurrent where most of the work which can be scientifically solved are also becoming productized heavily. Right. So what it means that more and more automated systems are coming which can actually run models given the data set, and they can actually bring the best model. So more and more we will find that requirement of a human data scientist who are only given a data, creating the model and just delivering the model, down the line probably machines will do it. So what this young people I suggest has to focus more is understanding the business domain, the problem given in hand, why we are actually solving it. If we solve it, what impact it will create. Unless and until we actually start focusing now there, it will be very difficult for this young people who feel that, this is the sexiest part and let me only do that part, but rest of the things are not my cup of tea. Why should I even care how the data has come and etc.? But believe me, those are the places where the judgment is required, human thought process required, designing required. I think that will still take some time machine to come and fill up those places. We have to focus there.
Perfect. Neethu, you want to add?
Yeah, for sure. I completely agree. I think we've seen a lot of cases where if you just look at the data, right, and just devoid of the context in which it exists, devoid of the business context, it can tell you something completely different. And you will end up solving a different problem statement. That could also be the case. Your understanding of the problem statement could itself be flawed. So it's very important to, I feel, substantiate what you're doing and to improve whatever it is that you're doing with your scientific and technology skills with a lot of research. That could be just industry domain speaking to the business user as much as possible, and just plain independent research to support what you're doing. I think that is going to emerge as the game changer of your solution being better or more cutting edge than anybody else's. So that is going to be an extremely important skill, I feel.
Okay. Next question. To the audience, guys, I've got these three beautiful ladies, the three beautiful leading ladies of analytics and data science. I want you to ask a very particular question. Why do we have so few women leaders in the data science space? What organizations are doing, like your organization is doing, to actually encourage women to stick around and also get more women in the workforce in the data science space? So anything in particular the organizations are doing? Who wants to go? Tanu?
Yeah, so women in data science and women in applied intelligence practice in Accenture is a big focus area, right? So Accenture, anyways, is an equal opportunity employer, and we hope to hit the 50-50 mark over the next 3 to 4 years across our organization, irrespective of whether we sit in analytics or any other function. Now, from Accenture, there's a lot of support for women to continue with their career, to grow. I could call out, there are different programs that get run here to coach women and help them grow. Support for new mothers, support for people who are just getting back from a break, or you could opt for break if you need. So be it women or a man, based your life stage. However, in my personal opinion, women you find very less compared to what we could have in this space, at least in the leadership roles, is because though the intake is there, people don't sustain and people just leave, and that we've seen in other spaces too, not just in analytics. The only suggestion for such cases is it's all about the work-life integration, which a lot of us are trying to get there, but it's a journey. So it's not just about analytics only where women are dropping off. You see technology and other such spaces as well. Women do drop off once they hit the mid-years in their life.
Perfect. Ujjyaini, what is your organization doing and what do you think should be done?
Okay, I think the lack. What I have seen actually even starts at a very young age of the journey, because we will get good data scientists only when we have them in right education curriculum, or they actually come from the right attitude upbringing, right? So when I was actually thinking, what are the things, why do I have, even when I'm trying to hire, I have much less lady to hire for, even though my team has good 5 lady and they are doing fantastically in the organization. For example, when I was in CMI or in ISI, we had a joke like, what is the rarest animal in the campus, and the answer was women, right? So If and it's not just TMI, I go to many other institute for hiring and I see the exactly same situation. So that is the first thing. So we have to encourage more and more young girls to come into the field of mathematics, science, and whatever be the field, encourage them to grow into it, and everyone can grow up to a good career in whatever is their passion. The second one, and this is, I think, very interesting, is our upbringing. Even when I was young, what used to be taught to us is, to be the good, the definition of good was don't speak much, accept things, right? And somehow that is very differentiated when it is comes to boys versus girls. I know currently, over time, probably in the cities it is still changing, but I don't see it is changing much. Okay. And I personally have faced a huge problem in McKinsey because of the thing that, because I was taught in my home, don't, don't beat your own drum. If you are good, people will automatically recognize you. But however, in industry, what happens is you have to speak up. Speaking up is a very, very important attitude that one has to, inculcate from a very, very young age. And parents has to encourage girls to speak up. If that is the thing has to happen, I still remember one of the McKinsey partner once told me, because I was struggling to grow there. And she told me that, Ujjyaini, this is the man's world. In the meeting room, if you don't know to speak up, if you can't speak up, you just don't exist there. So this was the one sentence changed my life. And I think I never had to look back from there. I changed my attitude. Even now, my mother looking at me tells me, oh God, the good girl you were, you no more a good girl, but I'm happy not being a good girl. So I think, that's the two things in my mind has to change. And once we have that social change, I'm very sure more and more ladies, irrespective of any domain, will come up to the top layers.
Okay. Neethu, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. What Tanu and Ujjyaini said completely resonates with me, right? I mean, I think a good place for any organization to start is to make the commitment to walk the talk, right? I mean, it's not going to be easy to get more women into the fold. You have to be very creative with what you do, because it's a twofold thing. One is hiring, finding the right women candidates who fit into your culture, who fit into your organization. They have the right skill set, the right attitude, all of those things, for which we would need more women to be there in STEM disciplines in the first place. So that is one challenge, and the other one is, of course, retaining good talent that we have. That would involve organizations to make a commitment towards flexibility and things like that. And not just that, I mean, be a little bit more creative, and I guess do things like adopting a more positive reinforcement approach. Encourage younger women who are starting their career to plan well for different life stages, and plan well in advance, so that you know what is going to happen and how you can mitigate the risks that could happen to your career. So yeah, I think those kind of things, if an organization does, it's going to be a very big commitment at an organization level, but also the responsibility also lies with all of us, I feel, to create an ecosystem to bring each other up, to support each other, mentor each other, and of course, create the right space for relatively younger women who might be, in the seeing a lot of momentum in their career, to continue that momentum, create the right space for them, give the right advice for that. I think that is also extremely important.
Okay.
One more thing, what I feel very important is, at a very young stage of their career, probably we should help them with the right coach and a mentor.
For
And
sure.
that can do wonder in a person's life, particularly at a place where you have to take a very critical decisions. And that is where women kind of, step back. And that is the place where a coach and a mentor can help. I think if all organization can help their young candidates or the young employees, attach them with a good mentor, and that mentor could be chosen from any functions, I think that also can help a lot.
Okay. I think I've got a point of view there. We're all Indians, right? So born, brought up in Delhi. I'm a Delhiite. But one thing I should say, Ujjyaini, to your point, that we are not taught to ask the question. That's not gender specific. I think that's for everyone. When I came overseas, the first thing, that's the difference between that's a true analytics or a true consultant that would look like, is to ask a question. We were taught right from our early childhood, aankh mila ke baat karta hai. And here, if I don't do that,
Yeah.
to my children, so when I talk to my children and they turn around and say, well, you're not looking at me and talking. This is disrespectful. So look at the difference. What we were taught was right is absolutely incorrect or wrong in the other part of the world. So I think we were taught like that, and that was our upbringing, which needs to change. And that makes a huge difference in the way we behave, because analytics is about asking questions.
Yeah.
And asking, I usually say there is no wrong question. Asking a question without fear. You need to ask the question. And that's what analytics is all about. Right or wrong,
Yeah.
we'll figure it out later, because you don't know if you've asked the wrong question. Well, I usually tell this story around Akbar and Birbal, that someone came up with this idea saying, I'll lay so you've got capital in Delhi, and Agra is where you've got most of the things. I'll lay a copper cable, and I'll give you 2 plastic boxes, and you can talk to each other. And Akbar became very upset. What is this guy saying? How can we do that? Today it's normal. Well, and then one idiot came in and said, I'll cut the cables as well. And then you can talk with 2 plastic boxes. We do that every minute. And then there was another idiot who came in and said, well, actually, wait on a minute. I'll put a glass screen there and you can watch. And they said, Pagal ho gaya, kill him. He's gone mad. You imagine the kind of, so you don't have a wrong question. There is nothing called a wrong question.
Yeah.
Not true at that time. But anyways, that's a different part of the world. Okay, I must say one thing. What I'm going to do from now is every fortnight run a woman in data science, so that we can bring in people like you and let them talk. So I would request you and all the others who are watching this to nominate one lady in data science, so that we can bring them here and listen to their story. I think that would be a good idea to do. That's what I can do. My part of things. Okay. Success stories. Let's talk about success stories. Is there one success story that you were involved in data science which you thought changed many things monetarily, or had an impact on the organization? What do you think? And I will start with the youngest of all, Neethu, to start with.
Okay, sure. So success stories, I think, honestly, Shailendra, I'm even now, every project that I do, I'm surprised at the outcome, right? Like how powerful it is, and how much the amount of impact that it has on the organization when it's packaged well, when it's done well, done the right way. You do the research, you put in the hours, and the final outcome. But I think what really excites me is when we are designing solutions for specific industries which are not your typical retail CPG, or doesn't fall into that a more common mold, I would say. So I had the opportunity to work with a company like that, which was a little bit different. I won't take the name, of course. But they were in the entertainment industry, and they work with a sort of like a dying business of sorts. But the amount of contribution that analyzing their data and understanding their customer that our organization, the project that we did for them, sort of changed the entire landscape of how things worked in that particular industry. So yeah, that was extremely exciting for me to be a part of.
Perfect. Ujjyaini, tell us one of your success stories.
Absolutely. And let me pick one which is most recent from our organization. So this is something, for a long time, content decisions, that which movie to make versus which original content to be shoot, or who are the cast whom I should cast for some of the characters, has been taken decision by people, right? And that people is a very gut feel based decision. There always been bunch of people who will day in day out watch content, read lots of stories, and then take a call, and it's a more, just judgment based. There was no back of science. The first thing that we did is, our endeavor was, and this is almost over the last 12 to 18 months that we have been able to deploy now in the Z5, is take even these decisions which are data driven. So we started with a project that, we have say 6 or 8 months of good information of our consumers. Can we create the fandom segments? And what we always thought that, okay, based on the content genre, probably the segments are very simple. People who come with the action lovers, thrillers, or or a romantic movie versus something. So what we were very surprised when we looked at data, that it is wrong. We do not have those 5 or 6. We actually have 70 different test cluster that exist. And if we have 70 kind of people who come and explore our content in a very different way, what am I doing? What kind of decisions am I taking? Today, when we actually even decide that for the year, these are the list of say 200 movies that we want to commission and want to bring on Z5, the digital platform, we actually take a decision based on this test cluster, that this movie is for what. And that is where we use heavily data science. This is where now it is no more judgment. So we already have these clusters. We run k nearest neighborhood kind of science. Given a content, we do deep learning, understand the story, understand the actions, events, emotions within those contents, and then bring to that into the k nearest neighborhood to figure out that this content will actually bring value to this kind of consumers. And then we take a call that buying this content, is that actually beneficial for me? If I buy it, what kind of revenue value this people generate to me over a year's time? Can I amortize the cost of this content by over a year's time? Therefore, what is the price point I should commission this content? And if I don't get it, I should rather let go.
Yep.
Right? A completely different decision making has happened. And what we have found, where our content creation was a very much hit and trial method for the starting 8 to 10 months, now it has become science driven, and we more and more see a absolutely great revenue, absolutely great jump of subscribers, and that has completely changed the revenue curve and the profit curve out of it. I think it has.
Because, yeah, this is amazing, because I never thought that even content driven OTT would have used analytics to that level. I would understand. I heard about audience management and what time of the day would you show what kind of content, kind of stuff, and then what kind of audience do you have, whether it is a young audience or an old audience, and how do you cater that. But to this level, to look at even the characters and the actors that you're going to hire or the content you're going to buy is amazing. This is I've heard it for the first time, to be honest. Nothing surprises me more than this. Thank you for that use case. Anything that in terms of uplift that you would like to share? If you can't, no problems. If you like to share something, let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. So, some of the content that we made, as I told, at the early starting years, what happened, it was almost like a zero sum game. Some of them will do very well and some of them will not. And because, it kind of it was not making much sense. But now when we do it, we have found, actually, to be honest, 30x growth. And 30x growth in terms of lifetime value of consumer, because now consumer comes and know every month, every week, I will have content of my choice. This is the lifetime value change that I am talking. And this is the subscription value. This is not concocted value. It is like the money that a subscriber pays to our for our platform. Their stickiness has improved, and therefore lifetime value has grew 30x.
Amazing. You just stumped me. 30x. Brilliant. Congratulations to you. Okay.
Thank you.
Tanu, coming to you. You work in the workforce analytics, and I always confuse it with workplace. Workforce analytics, and what kind of any example that you would want to share with any project that you did? You don't have to name the
Yeah.
company. Think about
Yeah.
it.
So analytics for customers, and much in lines with what Ujjyaini outlined, has been prevalent for years. But when you talk about employees or the workforce, this is a relatively new space with investments coming in from the biggies over the last, say, 3 to 5 years. Now, when we talk about workforce analytics, what do we mean about it? We mean that every employee decision in an organization could be data driven, right? Instead of HR working as a back office, as a cost center, as of somebody who you interact when you need things around the workplace, or somebody who is not your partner but somebody who you can fall upon once in a while, from your hiring and probably your exits being the biggest touch points. So the role of HR has changed significantly over the last few years. Now, HR is part of the business decision making, especially with your digital disruption across the globe. You really have workforces who are being augmented with machines, bots, and then you really need to figure out the way in which you could use your workforce in the most optimal manner, so that you really don't have to let go of a bulk just because you've put in digital in place. So a lot of decision making on your workforces can be data driven, and that's exactly what I work with. Now, where lies my satisfaction, and where do I find joy in doing this? Maximizing profitability, or minimizing cost for an organization is one aspect, right? So with who should you hire, when should you hire, what price should you hire, what should be your build by borrow bot, what kind of skills should you be investing in? That's one side of the story. The other side is the employee part, right? So more and more with the digital and with this situation, as you all can understand, the boundaries between work and life is kind of getting blurred, right? So every employee would have an aspiration, every employee would have some things which are very personal to themselves. If we are able to connect with those aspirations, or those elements within an employee, as an employer, then what you improve is your employee experience, right? And data science usage in employee experience enhancement is an amazing field, because that's where you talk about behavioral science and data science coming together. That's where you talk about psychology playing an important role. That's where you talk about business matrix, the hard KPIs, playing an important role. So all of this come together to enhance your employee experience, so that what you end up with is a satisfied employee, is somebody who is willing to give his best day in and day out, stick around in the company, grow with the company, and the company benefits from that kind of employee pool. So confluence of the objectives that an employer brings on board, and the employee needs, and being able to marry the two with the data science element, I believe that's a beautiful thing to do. We do that, and I can't name clients, so I would refrain from doing it. But what I spoke about is something that we end up doing for most clients in different forms and shapes, to help them hire the best, to help them retain the best, to help them upskill and retrain people in the best way, which is not just good for the company but also apt for that individual.
Okay. Yep, that is very important aspect. Today, employee retention is so important. In this current state, even more, because it's going to be so hard to find good talent going forward as we go. As we are sitting in this place, there'll be a lot of people, but to find the best from the lot will be another challenge to look at. And possibly one of the aspect of doing is employee profiling, where you could profile the employee and the kind of employees that you would like to hire, who would stick around with you for a long period of time. Anyways, I'm not going to talk about that. Otherwise, I'll keep on speaking for a while. Let's go to the next question. I have got too many questions to ask you from the audience. But very quickly, final question, and we can't get away with that. COVID-19. Can data science help? Any of you wants to take a stab? Go for it.
Yeah.
No problems. This is
No.
not a question of
No,
importance.
I can. So I think the role of data science is more paramount than ever in the C19 situation, right? So C19 has changed the world as we know it. Probably it'll take a while to go back to what we knew the world to be like 2 months back. Things around your workplaces, your workforce, your supply chain, your operations, everything is disrupted, right? So we see more and more ask from our clients to use data science, to use analytics to help them figure out the best way in which they can streamline their supply chain again, in the best way in which they could get their operations back on track, in the best way they could move from a physical workplace to a digital workplace, right? And then what do you do about your workforce? You would have to make important decisions, important choices about your workforce, whether you really want to let go of somebody or redeploy somebody in some other set of work. So data science plays a very, very important role given the C19 situation. There's a question on the chatbot here. I can. It's around whether our jobs are safe. I don't know, but I know the importance of data-driven decision making is actually going to be very paramount in the coming days.
Okay. Anyone else wants to have a go before I get to the audience questions?
So, when I started building the whole data science team in Z5 almost 18 months back, I had a question that could we have a team which is distributed across India, and it's not necessary that we relocate good talents from the city that they are in, particularly being in Mumbai and the cost of living, you don't necessarily get a great talent at the, budget that you want to explore. So at that time, it was not really agreed upon. But now, after doing the last good 2 weeks, none of the business project was really disrupted. We have been able to deliver what we were anyway delivering from office. Now I think it has actually proven that it doesn't matter whether the team is co-located in the same office and the same building. It actually, if we want to do, we can actually do, a different location based office and just bring in the right talent, from there. I think this is a good proof for us.
Okay. Neethu, you want to add or?
Yeah, I think I completely agree with what both Tanu and Ujjyaini said. I think one thing that I've noticed in these times is this wave of empathy, right? I mean, whether it's business to consumer or business to business. And I feel that this is a time when with any analytics support that anybody is providing, we have to, make an even bigger commitment towards delivering excellent work for our clients and be there for them, because certain industries have gone through are going through a very difficult time, but certain industries are not necessarily affected as much. So either way, this is a time when it's important for any industry to come together as a singular unit and help each other out as much as possible. In terms of one of the questions about whether or not the jobs are safe, I feel that given that analytics is not necessarily a good to have support function, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of important work will happen now, is what I feel. So from that perspective, I think it's an interesting time to be in analytics as well.
Okay. Let's quickly get onto the questions. You guys have been reading the questions. Let's go through one by one. I've got 3 different platforms to cater to. YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. We've got questions all over. So let's go for it. The first question most of you have answered was a question from 29 Rima, who said, how do you think the upcoming recession would impact analytics professionals? Tanu, you've answered. Neethu, you've answered. Ujjyaini, your point of view on that?
Yeah, I think once again, uh, analytics is such a consulting kind of work. Whether recession, I mean, whether the business is booming or whether the business is going through a challenge, you actually need the decisions to be made. And during the recession, you all the more need to think through that with the resources that we have, how do we ensure that my business will sustain and grow? And analytics will be once again required. So as Neetu said that it is not a good to have, but it is essential to have. I think chances of any big impact on analytics particularly may not be as much, and rather it can actually improve.
Okay, my point of view, and I should say that I always say when there is recession, analytics business booms. Depending upon what you call analytics, that's a different story. If it is only reporting, then I don't know. But hardcore analytics will improve, will be much more required in the coming days. I think we will be running short of analytics people very soon because we do not have good quality talent in the market at the moment. So I think we will require a lot many analytics people, and all that all that fluff that comes around with that will go away. So people will be able to figure out who's the best in the lot, and they will use those people, and they will be hard to find. So I don't think it's going to impact analytics function at all. Recession is going to actually boom the analytics function altogether. My point of view. Okay, next question is from Komal Aswani, who says, how critical is it to know AWS for a data scientist?
Okay, I think I can take that question. And once again, AWS is just one of the platform. Okay, particularly if you're working in the industries where it is a big data kind of industry and you have the cloud platform, your data is on cloud. AWS provides certain kind of infrastructure for you. Similarly, parallel to that, Microsoft Azure also provides, Google also provides, Oracle also provides. So it's not necessary that you have to only learn AWS. What you need to understand is what are those components. For example, S3 as a storage bucket, what does it do? What kind of object data that it can store, and why it is different than any kind of traditional database. If you have that kind of understanding, then you may go another organization, say a bank, where it's actually the blob storage which is of Azure, but both of them function the same way. So my suggestion will be to not go by one of the specific brand, but probably understand the tool, the functionalities, what it can value add to you, so that you know what to choose and when to choose.
Anyone wants to add?
No, I agree. I think one certification for a platform, any one of these mag that we have, is actually a good idea. However, I agree with Ujjyaini. It is not to go with the technology. Being technology agnostic is important to understand the concepts, because the concepts are pretty interchangeable. It's just about the certification which improves your CV value.
Okay, let me ask. We're running short of time. We've got too many questions to ask. Next question from Sushil Kumar. He says, are the lines blurring between analytics and consulting, with data science becoming easier to implement using multiple easy-to-use platforms cropping up? Who wants to take that? Neethu?
In fact, I feel that analytics is evolving as an independent practice more and more, rather than the other way around. I think it could probably have been combined with consulting as a codependent sort of function, but I feel that it's the other way around now. Analytics itself is evolving with an independent identity of its own.
Okay. Anyone else wants to add?
So I think, I was touching upon one of that point, that more and more parts of the analytics which could be done through science are actually becoming commoditized, and more automations are coming into place. Nobody can stop it. It will happen. More and more machines will do it. I think, I'm not sure what he wants to mean by analytics and consulting. My point is, more than the science, if you also understand, how that could be implemented, the consulting part of data science, I think growth has to, or the people reskilling has to happen more and more there. But once again, it is not the general consulting that a generalist, people do. It is analytics consulting, data driven strategy consulting. So, that is one of the stuff.
Okay. I'll go to the next question very quickly. From Komal Aswani, and she says, "What is the best way to build a mentor relationship from the data science industry, especially from women outside their company?" Ujjyaini, I think you mentioned about the mentorship and so forth. So why don't you answer that question?
So I think, LinkedIn is my personal place is a very good place, but it is not just the digital platform. You can always go to different conferences and, build your network. I think one thing what McKinsey taught me heavily was, you alone and your own skill is not good enough to know your worth. Your worth is equal to your network. And more and more, you have to first build your network. Once you build your network, you will be able to find that there are one or two people with whom you can very easily collaborate, share your points, and you can probably request them, or one of them to become your mentor. I can give you one example. One lady came when I was in my previous organization. She actually came for an interview. It was a good 2.5 hours interview process. She didn't make through it. But once she went back, she actually wrote back to me that, Ujjayini, I'm absolutely okay that I couldn't make it. I see that how much more I have to learn, but could you at least be my mentor? If I get stuck, could you be able to help me? She joined after almost 4 or 5 months. She joined another great organization. When she told that, that I tried to mentor her, boss at that time, manager at that time, absolutely encouraged and had a call with me and said that, thank you so much that you mentored her, and now I see so different person in her. I think, you have to figure it out and you have to invest in it.
Anyone else want to add?
Yeah, I think it's also important to have, you could have one mentor who's your primary point of inspiration. But I also feel that, like you mentioned, right, the network is extremely important. It's your entire support system, and you should strive to make it as diverse as possible. Both people from different stages of life, people from different genders, whatever, as diverse as possible, so that you get the right, or you can find your path, wherever it is that you want to go.
I want to just add one more thing, and just to break a myth, mentor need not be always a senior. Your
You're right.
mentor even could be one of your junior.
Yeah.
Because of the ever changing world, actually people like us, and probably Sal, you also told that we have grown a complete different industry shift. We may not know everything that the newest of the technology is bringing, but a very young guy who has joined the organization might know. And the mentorship even could be a reverse mentorship, so don't necessarily always choose, ask, and even a junior could be your best mentor.
Tanu, you want to add to this?
No, I agree with the ladies here on the call. Just to add, to get the right mentor, you really need to understand what you want from your career first. Unless you have that nailed, probably, the mentoring program doesn't always yield the success that it can yield. So figure out what you really want and then try to look for people who can help you get there.
Sure. Okay, next question from Yogi Bhimani. He's saying, there are so many colleges and courses coming up every day for data science. All courses are teaching the same curriculum. But when you go out to work for organizations, the expectations are too much. I think there is a difference. My personal view on this is that there is a difference between what is being taught at these colleges, because I don't think these guys who are teaching there come from industry. They are the guys who just think that that's what they should be teaching, and they've created those courses. I'm not sure about it. You guys may correct me, but I think there is a difference. There is a bit of a mismatch there. What do you think, guys?
Yes. Yeah, so we do observe that, especially when we go to campuses and we get campus hires, and of course the course curriculum across different colleges may not always sync up, but we see more and more education institutes are picking up the right vibes and trying to design courses, which is a good thing. 5 years back it was more of outlier, but now it's more of a norm that you see education institutes stepping this way. But of course they lack the practical aspects of delivering on data science project, for example. So along with doing these education courses, I would really want aspirant data scientists to have to go for Kaggle competition, or such other platforms which kind of exposes you to so many different problems which could get solved using data science, and you get to know the aptitude of people around who you probably don't meet, and not limited to your class size.
Yeah.
Anyone else wants to add?
So I want to add, two kind of world, and one, Neethu spoke about the campuses, and to be honest, when I also go to campus, I face the same. The other side of world is, there are a lot more institutes which are, private institutes, digital courses which are mushrooming these days, everywhere. Of course, they have a certain reason why they are doing. They are trying to bring this practicality of the businesses into the education. But I think more and more what is happening, people have started thinking data science is like a capsule. I can just eat it in 3 months or 9 months, and I will suddenly, at the end of it, I will become a data scientist. Data science, becoming a data scientist is a process. It's not a capsule that you can eat in 3 months or 9 months and you will suddenly become a data scientist. That doesn't happen. That builds a understanding, a foundation. Please be ensure your journey actually starts when you start working on the real data, you face the real challenges, and you start solving the real challenges on the job. So be prepared for it. Be ready that you have to go through those organizational expectations, which will be different. No institute can simulate that completely. So be ready to take the risk and jump into it. If you cannot take the risk, I can probably tell in a very harsh word, data science may not be a field for you if you don't know how to take the risk and learn new things.
You know what?
And
I
just
ask, before you go, I was smiling when I read your one paragraph about you and I asked for it, Ujjyaini. You know what? When people used to approach, well, they still approach to me and say, well, I want to become a data scientist. Shelly, can you help? And I asked them one simple question. In year 10, there was a chapter called statistics in your NCRT. Did you leave it or did you do that? And 95% of the people who are aspirant data scientists actually tell me that they left it because it was an optional question. There's a 5-mark question I will get, and there is another question optional to do that. So I'll do that question. And I think now you're wanting to become a data scientist. Imagine you left the basic fundamental chapter in itself, and now you want to become a data scientist to run your whole career on that. So I would request you to go back, use that book, year 10, use that chapter first, and then go through all the chapters that you missed out in 11th, 12th, and first year, so that you actually get the fundamentals right. Because most of these guys do not even have the fundamentals there. And data science is nothing that comes off, as you said, it's not a capsule that you will have and you will be a data scientist tomorrow. You need to get the foundations right. You need to know why are you even proposing something in the first place? What output will mean in terms of outcomes? So yeah, that's my point of view, but that's my rant. Neethu, you want to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that I think it's also very important to recognize what sort of learner are you, right? Different types of things work for different people. For some people, a classroom session is extremely important to set the basics right, and on top of that, you can build. And for some people, it's not necessary that they attend a classroom session for that. Just reading up things on the go and just keeping up with things comes more naturally to them. So I think it's also extremely important to recognize what sort of learner are you and find the right curriculum, courses. A lot of free content is available or at very nominal amount, on the internet. To access those right courses also extremely important, I feel.
Okay, let's quickly move to Facebook. There is a question from Nidhi Gupta. She's saying, what is the right mix of skills a data scientist requires in terms of consulting, functional or technical skills? Anyone wants to take that? Tanu?
Yeah, so I think I touched upon it a little bit. The whole data science gamut has like these 4-5 different roles, but they are somewhat connected. So you need to have a good amount of business domain knowledge, a good amount of functional knowledge, whichever field you're working in, and that takes time to build. That kind of comes with experience. Then about your technical skills, you really need to be a logical thinker, a problem solver, so and not shy away from mathematics or statistics problems. So you really need to code, and there are multitude of tools that are available today to where most of this happens. For example, Python. Most of us use Python on a day-to-day basis for our problem solving. You need to love data. Like you should not shy away from understanding what the data is trying to say. So that love for data, the love for crunching those numbers, the love for getting to that final insight which would drive some value should be there. I think that's a paramount. Apart from this, everything else could be picked up over time, and everybody else added to that as well.
Okay, very quickly, I'll go to the next question from Somak Mukherjee. So, are there any ways where we are focusing on customer personalization? I think that has been an old story. We've been doing that for ages now. I think we've nailed it to the extent that you walk to a website and you personalize. Well, the only problem is that personalization doesn't leave you for a long time, which you need to get rid of. But that's a different story. Okay.
It's hyper-personalization now.
Go to add Neethu on this?
No, I just said that it's in fact moved away from personalization to hyper-personalization.
Yeah. Okay, next question. Really nice insights given about core skill sets, which actually defines different job profiles. I think that's a comment in my view, and I'll leave it. Let me quickly get into the LinkedIn questions now. There are 8 of those. So Mendu Chakra Pani from Ircon International Limited said, network and teamwork, the important things. There is a question from Manendra Nath Shukla, and he says, hi sir, which one is good to become, data scientist or ML engineer in 2020? 2 different names. I don't know what that means.
Exactly. It's just the two nomenclature, like you have a good name for your school and certificates, and then your parents call you by some other name at home. I think it's just the 2 name. I mean,
okay. Bhaskar Gupta from Analytics India magazine says this is very informative. Congrats, guys. Angelo Kulos, an old friend of mine, worked with me at IBM, says, question, why build this in a data science team and not educate the users who better understand business to do this? Or partnership approach at least?
I think increasingly we're doing that also. It's become a part of in our organization as well. We do demystifying analytics courses and things like that for the end user to use the analytics product better. So I think it's part of the whole package these days, in fact.
Just to add that these days the trend is where data science comes in a box for the user, right? So the user wants to run or to have the power to run multiple scenarios themselves, to do their own selections, to figure out new ways of understanding. So they really don't want to code. They really don't want to do the data cleaning or the back-end work that needs to be done. So it's data science in a box for the user, where the user has the power to run those simulations themselves, right, in a real-time manner. So that needs some amount of data understanding, statistics understanding to interpret the results, but they really don't have to do it hands-on. So I would say the power has now moved to the users and not limited to the data scientists.
Okay, perfect. Next question is from Seng Hui So. He's a regional sales leader APAC. I don't know which company because I can't see that. But his question, in a customer intelligence requirement, there is a multitude of solutions in the market. Is a good data exfiltration a must-have? The visualization pretty much a pick and choose. I couldn't get the question clearly, but if anyone can answer that question, if it makes sense to you. Okay, I
didn't get Much.
The customer intelligence requirement, there is a multitude of solutions in the market. Yes. Is a good data exfiltration a must? The visualization, pretty much a pick and choose.
Yeah,
I think for a
means,
good. Sorry,
go ahead.
Tanu, go ahead.
Go ahead. I think what he means is there are several options for customer insights or customer understanding bit. Visualization could be anything, but data, good data is a must for such solutions. It's more about a question: is good data a must, or maybe on those lines. So my take to it is, it's garbage in, garbage out. So you really can't do with bad data to give you good insights, right? So having whether it's a customer system or any other system, you really need to have your data strategy in place. You need to collect the data in the right manner, in the right granularity, to actually get good actionable insights. Visualization is technology agnostic. You choose whatever you want.
Okay. Seng Hui So is the regional sales leader APAC for Aspire Systems. So if you guys know him, you can answer this question directly in the comment section as well later, guys. Okay. Ben Price from SAP APJ, he's the Chief Customer Officer. He says, let me ask, in your company, how do you get people on site to do data science work? How do you influence them? Well, very, very interesting question. You guys are influencers. How do you do that?
I'm sorry, Shailen, could you repeat? People.
I'll ask the question again. Let me ask, is what Ben Price from SAP APJ says. Let me ask, in your company, how do you get people on site to do data science work? How do you influence them?
I think a large portion of it is just educating people about data science, right? I mean, so a lot of the times I've seen it's thought of as this miracle MLAI, just apply on something and you will get some great result out of it. It's just demystifying what that word means, how accessible it is actually for the even with the kind of tools and resources available to us these days. To get started with data science is something that anybody can do, I feel. So it's just I feel that that's what we do here as an organization, is to demystify it as much as possible for the end user, be through training courses or just packaging it in a way where it's easy for the end user to consume it.
In one of my previous organization, I found that people think data science is a magic, so they can just come and ask anything at any time, and they feel like, jadoo ki chhari hai. So, at the end of the day or tomorrow, just we will have a, fantastic model to deploy. So the hard work that goes in was not necessarily empathized. So what we did, we actually did a one-day workshop, and we ran it with one of the consulting firm, of course. What we did, we actually brought in all these business users. We started with a business case, and we gave them all the tools to be able to actually build the model themselves, so that they go through the whole process, even though lots of work's already been done, codes were already given, just to even show them that once you run a code on a 6 months worth of billions of rows of data, just to get result itself takes, good few minutes. It is not like, second like that we have the answer. Once they actually run that process, the whole workshop, at the end of day, respect for data science team just multifolds. I think that something helped a lot.
Tanu, you want to add?
No, I think I agree with Ujjyaini, and in Accenture especially, we've been running these programs where we have functional or strategy practice working closely with the data science practice, and we kind of send them to joint sessions for a week where we have hands-on case studies to solve together. So that's on the training front, and then on the actual execution front, we've started designing pods for our client delivery, and And in the pod, you would definitely have people who have the functional or the strategy angle to bring on board, along with the data science, working together side by side. And then when each of them knows the pain that either faces, it becomes an easy conversation thereon, be it on the onshore mode or an offshore onshore mode, depending upon the structure of the delivery. It could be an offshore onshore or an onshore delivery in a hub and spoke mode, etc.
Okay. Last question before we close. And thank you very much. You've spent 1.5 hours with me. That's horrible to be in the same room as me. But anyways, is it feasible? This is, Srinidhi Shamarao, one of your colleagues, Neethu, senior partner at TheMathCompany, is saying, is it feasible, practical to shift to data science mid-career from IT? A very interesting question. And I think, who wants to go first?
Yeah, I've seen that happen. And especially back in the days when data science was limited to statistics and SAS and offline models, you would not see too many of IT or computer science grads getting into it. But however, now with the boom of digital cloud systems and everything coming into play, you actually have these new skill sets which are of importance. So you have people who have been in the IT career for some time, and then they fall in love with data and the data science element, and they make a mid-career switch. But they do have a good quantitative background behind them, as well as a good sense of coding and the technology base, everything to carry them through. So that is important to understand.
You want to add something to this, Neethu?
In fact, I changed my career, mid-career to data science. I come from a social services writing background and completely, non-math, non-coding. So I think all you need is a knack for learning and upskilling yourself. Just, and a love for data. At the end of the day, if you're able to tell stories from data, that's all you need.
Perfect. Guys, thank you very much for taking time today. And, you spent 1.5 hours with me. Thank you very much. I think people would have learned a lot from you. It was a great pleasure having you here. One request, if you can go in the comment section and answer all the questions that you see there, most of them as you want to. And secondly, if you can nominate one woman in data science so that we can bring them and interview them and have a discussion roundtable like this. I'm now going to run this every fortnight, so we can have more and more people understanding. I know it was a bit edgy because you hadn't seen anything of this sort in the past. Everyone was asking questions, what are we going to talk about and how is it? Now people can even see what kind of stuff, what kind of questions do we see. And to be honest, this was a huge success because I can see 3,000 people online watching it.
Nice.
Only
That's
the stats talk by themselves. I had 530 people on LinkedIn itself, and around about 2,500 on Facebook. So if you sum it, and I haven't even looked at YouTube at the moment. So we had around about 3,000 people watching, and you can see the questions, right? And I'm still getting questions. But anyways, thank you very much. It was a huge success, and you guys have made it a huge effort on this. Thank you for taking time out. I think it's a holiday in India today.
no,
No.
not really.
I thought so. I was thinking in the morning because, being Ram Navami, so I thought there was a holiday, but no, there's no holiday. Good stuff. So you're taking time out from your work. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks to all my co-speakers. Thank you so much to knowing Tanu and Neethu, both of you. Thanks.
Thank you. Same here.
Thank
Same
you.
here.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. So guys, that was the three ladies from data science in India. So we, as I said, we're having this Women in Data Science now fortnightly. And so I request you to kindly nominate one lady you think you would want to hear from, and I will make it a point to get them onto this roundtable and have a conversation with them. For today, thank you very much. Thank you. It was so nice of you for having you there. We at a point in time had 60 concurrent people watching this episode. So it was a huge success. Thank you very much. Keep on doing this. Keep on watching us. And please like, share, and follow me so that you can get an alert when an episode is on. Thank you very much.